By June 1968, the Beatles had completely stopped touring. The screaming crowds were gone, replaced by the quiet hum of Studio 2 at Hackney Road. The band had evolved from pop idols into dedicated audio architects, spending weeks treating the recording console as an instrument itself. They had already shown they could push boundaries. Albums like Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's were packed with backward guitars, string quartets, and dense, multi-layered arrangements that demanded serious critical attention. But there was a ceiling to that evolution. No matter how wild the instrumentation got, the music was still tethered to traditional rules. A track still required a chord progression, a tempo, and a chorus you could hum. The only way to move past those limitations was to stop playing instruments altogether. They needed a completely foreign language, a set of sonic tools that simply didn't exist within the commercial record industry. Think about what makes a song a song. If you strip out the lyrics, the melody, and the rhythm, what exactly is left? When you remove those foundational pillars, the entire structure collapses. The result is raw, unstructured noise. Filling that void requires you to harvest audio from the world around you. You have to use sirens, machinery, and accidental recordings to replace the missing notes. To cross this boundary, the band looked past the commercial music industry, adopting the specific logic of the avant-garde art world. Yoko Ono arrived at Abbey Road as an established veteran operating at the absolute fringe of the contemporary art scene. Ono was deeply embedded in the Fluxus movement, a radical, international collective of artists who specialized in experimental performance and provoked audiences to question the basic definition of art. The core of that movement was the belief that anything could be a medium. In Fluxus, a car horn, a dripping faucet, or static of a broken radio held the exact same artistic value as a finely tuned violin. That concept resonated with John Lennon's growing curiosity. Ono provided him with the conceptual framework he needed to treat industrial hums and random radio broadcasts as legitimate raw materials. Ono's presence provided the intellectual validation for Lennon to move from refining pop songs to intentionally abandoning the format altogether. The result was Revolution 9. This was an exercise in musique concrète, a mid-century compositional practice that uses raw, recorded sounds rather than traditional instruments as the actual building blocks of a piece. Executing this was an immense physical undertaking. They utilized 20 magnetic tape loops. These had to be spooled onto pencils, fed through playback heads, and routed through multiple analog machines across 3 different Abbey Road studios simultaneously. Amid the chaotic layers of orchestras playing backwards and choirs shouting, you hear Ono's voice whispering, "You become naked." It is a cool, fragmented provocation lifted straight from her minimalist performance pieces. The dense, challenging atmosphere they achieved draws a direct line to academic composers. It mirrors the intentional randomness practiced by John Cage, alongside the heavy, overwhelming electronic textures championed by Karlheinz Stockhausen. Lennon and Ono built Revolution 9 by hand. It is a sprawling, mechanical collage constructed in the laboratory of the studio. When the White Album was released in late 1968, audiences expecting polished pop hits were abruptly confronted with 8 minutes of tape loops. It polarized critics and baffled fans. The experiment didn't signal a permanent departure. The band would soon return to tightly structured, melodic songwriting for their final recorded album, Abbey Road. Because of that quick return to form, the track sits isolated within their catalog. They never attempted anything like it again. Yet, because it was embedded on one of the best-selling records of the decade, it became the most widely distributed piece of avant-garde music ever produced. Millions of people who had never heard of Fluxus or musique concrète suddenly had those exact concepts playing on their living room stereos. For one 8-minute stretch, the most popular musicians in the world abandoned the concept of the song entirely and dragged the academic art world directly into the mainstream.